The judge's gavel falls sharply on the dark wood, the sound resonating deep within me, a reverberation of the years I've spent in silent vigil. I am Zariah Coleman, 67 years old, sitting in this frigid, tense, drama-filled courtroom, my wrinkled hands clutching a yellow envelope I've guarded for 13 years. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat I fear everyone can hear. Across the room sits my daughter Shanice, impeccably dressed in her elegant suit, her sharp-tongued lawyer, a man with a crimson tie, pointing at me as if I were a common criminal. Her eyes blaze with a fury I both comprehend and find utterly baffling. Beside her, Attorney Darnell Hayes meticulously reviews his papers, radiating the unshakable confidence of someone who believes themselves to possess irrefutable truth. "Your Honor," Shanice declares, her voice trembling but resolute. "My mother has held my children captive for 13 years without my consent. This constitutes parental kidnapping. I never authorized her to take them." Her words strike me like poison darts. Kidnapping. The word pierces my chest, lodging itself deep within the repository of my maternal sorrows. I glance behind me to where my 3 grandchildren, Malik, 20, Imani, 18, and Nia, 16, sit in the third row, their faces ashen, their expressions clouded by a confusion that mirrors their bewilderment at this unfolding drama. Judge Jamal Richardson, a man etched with the weight of years and weariness visible in his tired eyes, peers at me over his spectacles. "Miss Coleman," he inquires, his voice measured, "what is your response to these accusations?" My fingers tighten around the envelope. Within lies the evidence of a truth I have fiercely protected for years, a truth as precious as any treasure, as raw and enduring as an unhealed wound. "Your Honor," I begin, my voice surprisingly steady, "I did not kidnap anyone. I simply raised the children my daughter abandoned on my doorstep." "That's a lie." Shanice explodes, rising to her feet. "I never abandoned them. I had mental health issues. I needed temporary help." Her lawyer smoothly gestures, calming her with practiced ease. "Your Honor, my client was hospitalized for severe postpartum depression. She required urgent medical treatment. Ms. Coleman exploited that vulnerability, seizing the children and isolating them from their biological mother." A murmur ripples through the tense, drama-filled courtroom. Heads nod in the audience, betraying preconceived judgments, assigning the victim's role before the full story has even begun to unfold. But I know the truth. I have lived it, day in and day out, for 13 years. The early mornings, the fevers, the homework struggles, the comforting hugs when tears and trembling voices fell, when they cried out for their mother. "Miss Coleman," the judge says, his tone softening slightly, "I understand caring for your grandchildren must have been challenging, but if the biological mother is requesting custody—" "With all due respect, Your Honor," I interrupt, my voice firmer than I anticipated, "there are things this court needs to know before rendering a decision." I raise the yellow envelope, holding it aloft. It's a simple gesture, yet I see Shanice's eyes widen in what seems like stark fear. "Here," I declare, "are documents that will fundamentally alter this narrative." The judge leans forward, his curiosity piqued. "What kind of documents, Ms. Coleman?" "Proof of what truly transpired 13 years ago. Proof of why my daughter stands before this court today. And it is not out of maternal love." My voice trembles slightly, not from fear, but from an emotion too complex to name. Shanice pales. "Mom, please don't do this," she whispers, her voice laced with desperation. "Do what, daughter?" I ask, my tone unwavering. "Tell the truth?" Attorney Darnell Hayes clears his throat, attempting to regain control. "Your Honor," he interjects. Coleman is attempting to deflect from the central issue. "Documents from the past do not negate my client's legal rights to her children." "On the contrary," I retort, my gaze locked on my daughter's, "these documents illuminate precisely why we are here today. They explain why, after 13 years of absolute heavy silence, thick with tension, of not contributing a single dollar to her children's upkeep, of not even a Christmas card, my daughter suddenly appears accompanied by legal counsel. A heavy silence, thick with tension, descends upon the room, the air thick with anticipation, like the stillness before a storm. I can hear my own heart pounding, the rustling of papers nervously shifted by the lawyer, and the ragged breaths of my grandchildren behind me. The judge's gaze is intense, unwavering. "Miss Coleman," he inquires, "are you suggesting there are ulterior motives behind this lawsuit?" "I am not suggesting anything, Your Honor," I reply. "I am stating that there are." My eyes meet Shanice's, and I see in them the same mischievous glint she possessed as a child when caught in a transgression. "And it is all documented here," I add, my voice barely above a whisper. "Mom," Shanice pleads, her voice barely audible, "please think about what you're doing." "I have had 13 years to think," I respond, my voice echoing with the weight of those years. 13 years of sleepless nights tending to Malik's fever. 13 years of school meetings where I was the sole family member present. 13 years waiting for a call from you that never came. Judge Mason gently taps his gavel. "Miss Coleman," he states, "are you prepared to submit these documents as evidence in this case?" I look at the envelope in my hands. Inside are letters Shanice wrote, photographs I preserved, receipts meticulously saved, and something else. Something even my grandchildren remain unaware of. Something that will irrevocably alter everything. "Yes, Your Honor," I affirm, my voice steady. "I am ready." The judge nods, briefly consulting his calendar. "Very well, Miss Coleman. But before examining these documents, I wish to hear your complete account of the events. Tell us what happened 13 years ago." I close my eyes, allowing myself to be transported back to that day that irrevocably changed my life. It was a rainy Tuesday in October. I was in my small kitchen, preparing chamomile tea to soothe my nerves after a doctor's appointment that confirmed the worsening of my arthritis. Then near noon, I heard the insistent knocking at the door. My voice softens as the memory floods back. Shanice stood there, her 3 children with her. Malik was 7, Imani 5, and Nia barely 3. They were filthy, their clothes rumpled, the younger 2 wailing with hunger. I glance at my grandchildren. Malik offers a sad smile, as if glimmers of that day still haunt his memory. Imani's eyes are glazed with unshed tears and trembling voices. Nia, my little Nia, clutches herself, just as she did as a frightened child. My daughter entered my house like a whirlwind. I continue my narrative. She carried a plastic bag containing some of the children's clothes. A jumbled mess, nothing clean. "Mom," she said, "I need you to keep them for a while. Just a few weeks until I resolve my problems." Shanice casts her gaze downward. Her lawyer murmurs something in her ear, but she doesn't respond. I know she remembers that day with the same clarity as I do. I questioned her about these problems, offered financial assistance, inquired about the children's father, but she only repeated that she would return shortly. She gave each child a fleeting kiss and left. The children ran to the window crying out, "Mommy, Mommy!" But she was already in a taxi disappearing down the street. The tense, drama-filled courtroom falls silent. A profound stillness descends. I feel the breath of those present slow, deepening, as if they are collectively holding something within. That night, Malik asked when his mother would return. I told him soon. Nia cried for her teddy bear, left behind at Shanice's apartment. Imani, my sweet Imani, helped me prepare dinner with her small hands, as if instinctively understanding that the responsibility of keeping them together now fell to me. My voice cracks slightly, and I accept the glass of water offered by the court officer. Days turned into weeks. I didn't know Shanice's address. She had moved. I had no phone to contact her. The children asked about her every day. Malik began wetting the bed. Imani stopped speaking for nearly a month. Nia, my little Nia, developed a persistent cough. I watched Shanice shift uncomfortably in her seat. Her hands tremble slightly as she fidgets with a ring on her finger. I enrolled them in the school near my house. I needed their documents, their birth certificates. I went to Shanice's old address. The neighbors informed me she had left without paying 3 months' rent. The landlady handed me a box of Shanice's belongings, including some of the children's papers. Judge Mason makes notes. "Did you attempt to report this situation to the authorities?" he asks. Your Honor, I reply, I believed it was temporary. Shanice had experienced difficulties before, but she had never completely abandoned her children. I believed she would return. Besides, what was I to say? That my daughter had left her children with me and wouldn't be back? At that moment there was no crime. It was simply a mother who had left her children with their grandmother. I paused, my gaze fixed on Shanice. But months became years. Malik turned 8 and asked if he could invite his mother to his birthday party. I told him we would try to find her. Imani started first grade, and when her teacher inquired about her parents, she pointed to me and said, "This is my mom, Zariah." Tears well in my eyes, but I blinked them back. It's not time for tears and trembling voices. It's time for remembrance. Expenses mounted. My pension barely covered my own needs. Suddenly, I was responsible for feeding, clothing, and educating 3 children. I sold some of my jewelry. I took a cleaning job on weekends. A neighbor, Miss Celine Carter, helped by watching the children while I worked. The judge looks up, recognizing the name. "Any relation to you?" he inquires. "She's my sister, Your Honor," I reply. "And she can attest to everything we endured during those initial years." Shanice and her lawyer exchange anxious glances. This was clearly unexpected. When Nia turned 5, we faced a crisis. She contracted pneumonia and required hospitalization. The doctors demanded health insurance, parental authorization documents I lacked. That's when I decided to pursue legal guardianship of the children. My voice grows stronger. I hired a lawyer using what little savings I had. Cost me $800 I didn't have, but it was essential. The lawyer attempted to locate Shanice to inform her of the guardianship proceedings. We published notices in the newspaper as required by law. No one responded. "Did you obtain legal guardianship?" the judge asks. "Yes, Your Honor," I reply. 10 years ago, this very court granted me legal guardianship of my 3 grandchildren. I have all the documents. For 3 years, the law mandated continued searches for the biological mother. She never appeared, never called, never sent a single dollar. Shanice rises abruptly. "I was ill," she exclaims. "I suffered from depression. I couldn't care for them in that state." "Please sit down," the judge commands firmly. Then turning to me, he says, "Continue, Miss Coleman." "The children grew up with me." I continue. "Malik graduated high school with honors. Imani won poetry contests. Nia learned to play guitar and formed a band at school. They received therapy when needed. I took them to the doctor for vaccinations, to all their school events. I celebrated every birthday, every achievement, every significant moment of their lives. I look at my grandchildren and Malik nods, tears and trembling voices in his eyes. "I never lied to them about their mother," I say. "I always told them she loved them but couldn't care for them at the time. I showed them pictures of her when they were babies. I saved every drawing they made for her, hoping she would return." "And they had no contact with her during all these years?" the judge asks. "Not once, Your Honor," I reply. "Until 2 months ago, when she appeared at my door with her lawyer and a custody demand." The judge leans forward, his interest piqued. 2 months? And what changed after 13 years of complete absence? I smile faintly, for here comes the part Shanice once kept hidden. I raise the yellow envelope. "That answer, Your Honor," I say, "is contained within these documents." Judge Jamal Richardson extends his hand. "Ms. Coleman, please approach and present the documents you mentioned." I rise slowly, my arthritic knees protesting, but my resolve outweighs the physical pain. I walk toward the stand, the yellow envelope clutched to my chest. I hear the nervous click of Shanice's heels against the wooden floor. "Your Honor," Attorney Darnell Hayes says, rising to his feet, "I request that any document presented be reviewed by the defense before admission as evidence." "Certainly," the judge replies. "Miss Coleman, please give the documents to the clerk to be reviewed by both parties." I carefully open the envelope, as if it were a treasure chest guarded for years. My fingers tremble slightly, not from fear, but from the profound emotion of the truth finally coming to light. Inside are photographs, handwritten letters, receipts, and some folded papers that form the heart of this narrative. Let's begin with this, I say, removing a packet of photographs tied with a red ribbon. These are pictures I took the day Shanice left the children with me. The clerk takes the photographs and passes them to the judge, who examines them one by one. His expression gradually shifts, becoming more serious. Describe what we see in these images, Ms. Coleman, he requests. The first photo shows Malik in dirty, torn clothing. I begin. You can see holes in the soles of his shoes. The second is of Imani, with dried food stains on her face and tangled hair. The third is of Nia, my little Nia, wearing a diaper that clearly hadn't been changed in hours. Shanice covers her face with her hands. Her lawyer whispers something to her, but she shakes her head repeatedly. Your Honor, I continue, I took these photographs to document the condition in which the children arrived at my home, not with the intention of using them against her, but because a nurse neighbor advised me to keep a record of everything. The judge passes the photos to Shanice's lawyer, who quickly reviews them and shows them to his client. I see my daughter close her eyes tightly, as if trying to erase those memories. Now, I say, producing a second set of documents, these are the letters Shanice wrote to me during the first 6 months after leaving the children. The judge takes the letters and immediately notes the handwriting. These are written in your daughter's own hand? He asks. Yes, Your Honor, I confirm. I would recognize her handwriting anywhere. I look at Shanice. Tell the judge what those letters said, daughter. Shanice remains silent, but her lawyer takes the letters and begins to read them. His expression changes dramatically as he reads. Your Honor, I say, my voice clear. In the first letter, dated 3 weeks after she left the children, Shanice wrote that she had met a man named Tyrone Brooks and was moving with him to another city. She asked me to care for the children a little longer, because her new partner didn't want immediate family responsibilities. The heavy silence, thick with tension in the room, is profound. You could hear a pin drop. All eyes are fixed on Shanice, who has begun to weep silently. In the second letter, I continue. She informed me that she was pregnant with Javier's child, and that she couldn't return for the children because he had threatened to leave her if she brought burdens from the past into their new life. Pregnant? The judge asks, surprised. Yes, Your Honor, I respond. My daughter had another child with Tyrone Brooks, a boy who is now 12 years old and lives with them. A child she could raise because it was convenient for her new relationship. Malik, Imani, and Nia exchange shocked glances. This information is new to them. I never told them about their younger brother, because I didn't want to inflict further pain. In the third letter, my voice hardening, Shanice asked me to sign some papers officially renouncing any claim to her children so she could start a new life without legal complications. She offered me $500 for the expenses I had incurred with her children up to that point. Attorney Darnell Hayes looks pale. This information was clearly not part of the version his client had given him. And you signed those papers? The judge asks. No, Your Honor, I reply. I wrote back telling her I didn't want her money, but if she truly wanted to disappear from our lives, she should do it completely. I told her not to contact us again until she was truly ready to be a mother. I pull another document from the envelope. This is her response to my letter. The last communication we had in 13 years. The judge reads the document, his expression hardening noticeably. Miss Coleman, he says, can you read aloud what this letter says? I take the paper, my hands trembling, but my voice is firm and clear. Mom, it's fine. I won't bother you anymore. Take good care of the children because I have my own family now. If anyone ever asks, tell them their mom had to go far away for work. I don't want them to suffer anymore. Sincerely, Shanice. Tears stream down my grandchildren's cheeks. Malik rises as if to approach me, but Imani stops him, taking his arm. Your Honor, I say, putting the letter away. For 13 years I respected that decision. I never searched for my daughter. I never attempted to contact her. I raised her children with love, with the few resources I had. hoping that someday she would mature and return for the right reasons. And why do you believe she has returned now? The judge asks. I smile sadly as I pull the last document from the envelope. Because 3 months ago, Your Honor, my brother Malik Vance, Shanice's uncle, who lived in Texas and had no children, passed away. The judge leans forward, his interest renewed. And what does that have to do with this case? My brother, Your Honor, I explain, left a significant inheritance to each of his grandchildren, $50,000 in total for Malik, Imani, and Nia respectively. Shanice sobs more loudly, and her lawyer seems to be considering abandoning the case. But the inheritance, I continue, my voice firm, can only be claimed by the children if they are under the custody of a direct relative, meaning their mother or their grandmother. And I, as their current legal guardian, had already initiated the procedures for them to access that money when they came of age. The judge looks at me intently. Are you suggesting that Mrs. Shanice Vance returned solely to gain access to her children's inheritance? I pull the final paper from the envelope. It's a copy of a legal document that was difficult to obtain. Your Honor, I say, this is a private report I commissioned about my daughter's activities in recent months. It shows that exactly 2.5 months ago, she hired the services of attorney Darnell Hayes and began investigating my brother's inheritance. Shanice's lawyer rises abruptly. Objection, he declares. That investigation is private and illegal. It's completely legal, I reply calmly. I hired a licensed private investigator after my daughter suddenly appeared at my door with legal threats. I had every right to protect my grandchildren. The judge taps his gavel. Order in the court. He looks at me with an expression that mixes respect and curiosity. Miss Coleman, is there anything else in that envelope the court should know? I look at the envelope, which now feels much lighter, yet I know it still holds the most important secret of all. Yes, Your Honor, I reply. There is something else. Something even my grandchildren don't know yet. Judge Jamal Richardson adjusts his glasses and looks at me with an intensity he hadn't shown before. Miss Coleman, he says, what else does that envelope contain that you consider relevant to this case? My fingers search for the last document, hidden at the bottom of the yellow envelope. It's a sheet of paper folded many times, yellowed with age, but containing the most crucial words of this story. However, before revealing it, I know there is something I must do. Your Honor, I say, before presenting this last document, I would like the court to hear directly from my grandchildren. I believe it's only fair that they express their own opinions about this situation. Shanice sits up, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Her lawyer, Darnell Hayes, nods quickly. Your Honor, he says, my client agrees. The minors have the right to express their preferences. The judge considers the request. Very well, he says. Malik Vance, please approach the stand. My eldest grandson rises slowly. At 20, Malik is a tall, slender young man with his grandfather's intelligent eyes and the gentle nature he inherited from our family. He walks to the stand with measured steps, as if each movement requires conscious deliberation. Malik, the judge says in a gentle voice, I understand this situation must be very difficult for you. I want you to know that you can speak freely. Do you remember your biological mother? Malik swallows, glancing briefly at Shanice before answering. Yes, Your Honor, he says. I have some vague memories. I remember there was a lot of confusion at home. I remember that sometimes there wasn't enough food, and that Grandma Eleanor would show up with bags from the grocery store. I remember the day we arrived at her house, and she bathed us, gave us clean clothes, and made us chicken soup. And how do you feel about your mother's absence during these years? The judge asks. Malik closes his eyes for a moment. Your Honor, he says, for a long time I was angry. I didn't understand why my mom didn't come back. My school friends had parents who picked them up, who went to their soccer games, who helped them with homework. I had Grandma Eleanor, who worked 2 jobs to support us and still never missed a school meeting. I watched Shanice weep silently, but Malik continues, his maturity breaking my heart. When I turned 15, I stopped being angry. I understood that my grandma had sacrificed her peace of mind, her health and her savings for us. I understood that she had no obligation to raise us, but she did it because she loves us. And now that your biological mother has returned requesting custody, how do you feel? The judge asks. Malik looks directly at Shanice. Mom, he says, if I may call you that, I'm glad to know you're doing well. I'm glad to know you were able to overcome your problems, but I can't pretend these 13 years didn't happen. I can't pretend it doesn't hurt to know you formed another family while we grew up wondering what we had done wrong. The heavy silence, thick with tension in the room, is absolute. Shanice sobs more loudly. Where would you like to live, Malik? The judge asks. Your Honor, Malik replies, I'm already of legal age. I can legally make my own decisions, but if my answer can help protect my younger sisters, then the answer is clear. I want to stay with my grandma Eleanor. She's the one who raised us, who loves us unconditionally, who never abandoned us. Malik returns to his seat, and the judge calls Imani. My 18-year-old granddaughter walks to the stand with the grace that has always characterized her, but I can see the tension in her shoulders. Imani, the judge says, you are also of legal age. What is your perspective on this situation? Imani takes a deep breath before speaking. Your Honor, she says, I have some clearer memories than Malik because I was a little older when we came to live with my grandmother. I remember my biological mother crying constantly. I remember days she'd stay in bed, and we children were left to fend for ourselves. Shanice shouts from her seat. I was sick. I had postpartum depression. The judge, heavy silence, thick with tensions, her with a stern look. Please allow the young lady to finish. Imani continues. I understand you were sick, Mom, but I also remember the day we arrived at Grandma Zariah's house. For the first time in a long time, someone asked us if we'd eaten. Someone read us bedtime stories. Someone reassured us that everything would be all right. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I listened to my granddaughter's heartfelt words. Grandma Zariah took us to a psychologist when we had nightmares. She enrolled us in extracurricular activities, so we wouldn't feel isolated or different from other children. When I was 14 and diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, she dedicated herself to learning everything she needed to know about nutrition, glucose monitoring, and my overall care. The judge meticulously takes notes as Imani recounts her childhood. And regarding staying with your biological mother or your grandmother? The judge inquires. Your Honor, Imani responds, my biological mother is a stranger to me. I know she's my biological mother, but Grandma Zariah shared my childhood, my adolescence, my fears, and my dreams. The decision is clear. Finally, the judge calls Nia to the stand. My youngest granddaughter, 16 years old, approaches with the unwavering determination that has always defined her. She bears the strongest physical resemblance to me, yet possesses a rebellious spirit reminiscent of Shanice in her youth. Nia, you are a minor, but your opinion is crucial to the court. What do you remember about your life before coming to live with your grandmother? Nia looks at Shanice with an unreadable expression. Your Honor, I was very young, but I remember things. I remember being hungry. I remember crying and no one responding. I remember the smell of the house where we lived, a smell of sadness and abandonment. Shanice shrinks in on herself, as if her youngest daughter's words are physical blows. But I also remember, Nia continues, the first day at Grandma Zariah's house. I remember a warm bath and clean pajamas that smelled of fabric softener. I remember warm milk with honey before bed and a lullaby. Would you like to get to know your biological mother better? The judge asks. Nia pauses thoughtfully. Your Honor, I'm not going to lie. I'm curious to meet the woman who gave me life, but I'm also scared. Scared she'll leave again. Scared that her promises will be empty, just like the one she made 13 years ago. And where do you feel safest? With my Grandma Zariah, Your Honor. She's never let me down, never lied to me. When I asked her why my mom left, she didn't make up fanciful stories. She told me the truth, that sometimes adults make difficult choices, and that she loved me enough to stay. Nia returns to her seat, and the judge addresses me. Miss Coleman, your grandchildren have been very clear in their preferences. Is there anything else the court should know before making a decision? I look at the yellow envelope in my hands, then at my 3 grandchildren. They have been courageous in sharing their experiences. Now it's my turn to be brave. Yes, Your Honor. There's something else. Something that will completely alter the perspective of this case. I pull the final document from the envelope. It's a sheet of paper folded and unfolded countless times, the creases etched permanently into the paper. This document I discovered 2 years ago amongst the belongings Shanice left behind in her apartment. A document written and signed by Shanice herself. Shanice pales, becoming as white as a ghost. Her lawyer leans toward her, but my daughter repeatedly shakes her head. What kind of document, Miss Coleman? The judge asks. A voluntary renunciation of parental rights, Your Honor, written in my daughter's own hand, signed and dated 3 days after she left the children with me. Judge Jamal Richardson sits up abruptly, his expression shifting from professional curiosity to utter shock. A voluntary renunciation of parental rights? Miss Coleman, are you certain of what you're saying? Completely certain, Your Honor. I extend the document towards the court clerk. This paper was among the items Shanice abandoned in her apartment. The landlady gave it to me along with photographs and other personal effects my daughter left behind. Shanice nearly faints in her seat. Her lawyer, Darnell Hayes, takes the document with trembling hands, his face draining of color as he reads it. This can't be real, he murmurs. Read it aloud, please, the judge orders. The lawyer clears his throat, his voice choked with emotion as he begins to read. I, Shanice Vance, 26 years of age, hereby voluntarily relinquish all my rights as mother of Malik Vance, 7 years old, Imani Vance, 5 years old, and Nia Vance, 3 years old. I acknowledge that I do not have the emotional, economic, or psychological capacity to raise them adequately. The heavy silence, thick with tension in the room, is profound, broken only by the audible, agitated breathing of those present. My grandchildren exchange confused and pained glances. Continue, the judge says gravely. The lawyer continues. I fully authorize my mother, Zariah Coleman, to make all legal, medical, and educational decisions related to my children. I waive any right to visit them, contact them, or claim them in the future. This decision is definitive and irrevocable. Signed, Shanice Vance, dated October 15, 2011. Shanice erupts into hysterical sobs. I was crazy. I didn't know what I was writing. I was mentally ill. The judge bangs his gavel repeatedly. Order. Miss Coleman, do you have witnesses to confirm that this document was written voluntarily by your daughter? Yes, Your Honor. The landlady of the building where Shanice lived, Ms. Latrice Johnson, can testify that my daughter asked her for paper and a pen to write an important letter 3 days after leaving the children. She can also confirm that Shanice was conscious and coherent during those days. Attorney Darnell Hayes whispers urgently to his client, but Shanice continues to sob uncontrollably. Furthermore, I continue. There's something else the court should know, something I discovered only 2 weeks ago that explains why my daughter has returned now. All eyes are fixed on me. The tension in the room intensifies. Your Honor, I hired a private investigator not only to learn about my daughter's recent activities, but also to fully understand her current circumstances. What we discovered is significant. I pull a small folder from my purse. Shanice and her partner, Tyrone Brooks, are facing a severe financial crisis. 6 months ago, Javier lost his job. 4 months ago, they received an eviction notice. 3 months ago, precisely when they learned of my brother's inheritance, they initiated proceedings to obtain custody of my grandchildren. Shanice lifts her head, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Mom, please let me finish. I say, my voice firm but compassionate. The investigator also discovered that you and Javier have been living on loans and credit cards. You owe over $30,000 in accumulated debt. The judge reviews the documents I have provided, and you believe that your grandchildren's inheritance is the solution they seek for their financial problems? I don't believe it, Your Honor. I know it. I looked directly at Shanice. A week ago, my daughter called me on the phone for the first time in 13 years. The surprise in the room is palpable. Even my grandchildren look at me in astonishment, as I hadn't mentioned this call to them. And what did she say in that call? The judge asks. She told me she had matured, that she had overcome her problems, and that she wanted to get her children back. When I asked her why, after so long, she said she had been saving money to provide them a better life. I paused dramatically. Then I asked her about my brother's inheritance. There was a long heavy silence, thick with tension, and then she said, "Mom, that money belongs to my children. I just want to make sure they receive it when the time is right." And what did you reply? I told her that her children already had access to that inheritance through me, their legal guardian, that the money was securely held in a trust fund until each of them turned 21. Shanice covers her face with her hands, anticipating what's coming next. It was then that her tone changed completely. I continue. She told me that as their biological mother, she had more right to manage that inheritance than I did. She told me she had consulted with a lawyer and could legally fight for custody. She threatened me, Your Honor. The judge leans forward. How did she threaten you? She told me that if I didn't voluntarily transfer custody and control of the inheritance, she would accuse me of kidnapping. She told me she had witnesses who could testify that I had intentionally alienated the children from her. She told me that a judge would always favor a biological mother over a grandmother. Malik suddenly stands up. Grandma, why didn't you tell us she threatened you? Because I didn't want you to worry more than necessary, I reply softly. And because I knew the truth would come out at the right time. The judge bangs his gavel. Young man, please take your seat. Then he looks at me. Miss Coleman, do you have that phone conversation recorded? No, Your Honor, but I have something better. I smile slightly. After that call, my daughter sent me several text messages where she repeated her threats. Messages that are saved on my phone, and that I have printed for the court. I produce the message printouts and hand them to the clerk. The judge reads them silently, his expression growing more severe with each message. Can you read some of these messages to the court? The judge asks. I take the printouts and read in a clear voice. Message from July 18th. Mom, think it over carefully. I'm the biological mother and any judge will side with me. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. I continue. Message from July 20th. I've been talking to my lawyer. He says what you did could be considered parental kidnapping. You could go to jail. And the last message, my voice growing firmer, from July 22nd. Mom, if you give me custody voluntarily, we can reach an agreement on the inheritance. You keep half for having taken care of them. I keep half because I'm their mother. But if you force me to go to trial, I get everything. The judge places the documents on his desk and looks directly at Shanice. Miss Coleman, do you confirm that you sent these messages? Shanice sobs, unable to speak. Her lawyer looks completely defeated. Your Honor, I say softly, I want to make it clear that I am not seeking revenge against my daughter. I understand that she went through difficult times when she was young. I understand that early motherhood and mental health problems can lead to desperate decisions. I look at Shanice with sadness, but also with unwavering determination. But what I cannot accept is that after 13 years of total absence, after having formally relinquished her rights as a mother, after having formed a new family and completely forgotten about these children, she now returns only because money is involved. What do you request from the court? The judge asks. That my permanent legal guardianship over my minor grandchildren be confirmed, that my daughter's custody demand be completely rejected, and that a restraining order be issued preventing Shanice from approaching the children unless they, when they reach the age of majority, voluntarily decide to have contact with her. Shanice shouts from her seat. You can't take my children away from me forever. I turn to her, my expression a mix of pain and firmness. Daughter, you yourself gave them up 13 years ago. I'm not taking anything from you. I'm simply protecting what you abandoned. The judge declares a 30-minute recess to review all the documentation. The tense, drama-filled courtroom partially empties, but I remain seated, clutching my purse to my chest as if it were a shield. My grandchildren approach me, enveloping me in a silent embrace that speaks volumes. Grandma, Nia whispers, why did you never tell us she had given us up in writing? Because I wanted you to have the opportunity to form your own opinion about your mother when you were old enough to understand, I reply, stroking her hair. I didn't want you to grow up with hatred in your hearts. Malik squeezes my hand. But you lied to us all these years when you told us maybe she would come back. I didn't lie, my love. There was always the possibility that she would mature and return for the right reasons. I held on to that hope for a long time. I looked towards where Shanice sits, whispering urgently with her lawyer. But when she called me a week ago, I knew immediately that she hadn't returned for you. She had returned for the money. Imani sits next to me. What's going to happen now, Grandma? I don't know, my child, but I know we've told the truth and that's all we can do. During the recess, I watched Shanice slowly approach us. Her lawyer tries to stop her, but she ignores him. She walks hesitantly, as if each step is an insurmountable mountain. Mom, she says, her voice breaking, can we talk privately? Her voice trembles like when she was a child and had done something wrong. I know I made terrible mistakes, but I've changed. I've really changed. Have you changed, Shanice? Or do you just need money? My question is direct, yet not cruel. After so many years, I've earned the right to brutal honesty. She lowers her gaze. Both are true. Yes, I need the money, but I've also missed my children all these years. You've missed them. My voice rises slightly. Shanice, you had 13 years to miss them. 13 years to call, to write, to send a Christmas card. 13 years to ask how they were, if they needed anything, if they remembered you. I was scared, she whispers. I was scared they would hate me for abandoning them. Then why now? Why, after 13 years of fear, do you suddenly have the courage to fight for them in court? Shanice leans against the window, needing physical support to continue. Because Javier told me that if I didn't try to get my children and their inheritance back, he would leave me. He told me he couldn't stay with the woman who had given away $50,000. The brutal honesty of her confession takes me aback. For a moment, I see the scared girl she once was, caught between impossible choices. Then you haven't changed at all, I say with deep sadness. 13 years ago, you made a decision based on what a man demanded of you. Today you are here for the same reason. It's not that simple, she insists, her voice rising slightly before she glances around to ensure no one overhears. Mom, you don't understand the pressure I've lived under. Javier has supported me all these years. Without him, I have nothing. I don't have a job. I don't have my own home. I don't have savings. And what about your other child? The child you could raise because it was convenient for your relationship? Shanice stumbles as if I've struck her. Paul is different. He was born within my marriage to Javier. He was part of our plans. Malik, Imani, and Nia were also your children, Shanice. They also deserved unconditional love. But I couldn't give them that. She explodes, tears and trembling voices streaming down her face. I was a kid when I had them. I didn't know how to be a mother. Every time Malik cried, I cried too. Every time Imani had nightmares, I had panic attacks. I couldn't handle them. For the first time in this conversation, I feel a pang of compassion for my daughter. Then why didn't you ask me for help at that time? Why didn't you come to me and say, Mom, I can't do this alone? Because I was afraid you'd judge me. I was afraid you'd think I was a bad mother. Shanice, my voice softens, I would have helped you. We would have found a way to raise them together, but you chose to run away. You chose to abandon them completely. I know, she sobs. I know. And I've lived with that guilt all these years. But Mom, now I can offer them something better. With the inheritance, I can give them a life I could never give them before. With the inheritance, Shanice, are you listening to me? It's not about the money. It's about 13 years of absence. It's about you writing a renunciation of parental rights. It's about you forming another family and completely forgetting about them. Shanice straightens up, and for a moment I see a flicker of the determination that characterized her in her youth. Mom, legally, I'm still their biological mother. That paper I wrote wasn't notarized. It wasn't presented before a judge. Technically, it doesn't have full legal validity. And there it is. The true Shanice emerges again. Calculating and manipulative. So, this was never about getting your children back. This is about winning a legal case to access the money. It's about both things, she insists. Mom, we can reach an agreement. I'll take the children, but you can visit them whenever you want. We can share the responsibility of raising them and about the inheritance. We can divide it fairly. You've spent money on them all these years. It's fair that you receive compensation. Compensation? The word comes out of my mouth like poison. Shanice, do you think I raised your children expecting financial reward? Do you think I took them to the doctor when they had a fever because I expected someone to pay me for it? Do you think I stayed up all night when they had nightmares because I expected to receive money in return? Stop. Just stop. Shanice covers her ears like a child who doesn't want to hear the truth. I'm not going to stop, Shanice, because this is what you need to hear. I didn't raise those children as an investment. I raised them because I love them, because they are my blood. Because when you abandoned them, someone had to love them unconditionally. Shanice lowers her hands and looks at me with an expression I haven't seen in years. It's the same look she had as a teenager when she realized she'd made a serious mistake. Mom, she says in a very small voice, what do I have to do for you to forgive me? The question catches me off guard. For years I had imagined this moment. I had thought about what I would tell her if she ever asked for forgiveness. But now that I'm here, the words don't come easily. Shanice, forgiveness isn't something you negotiate. It's not something you get in exchange for doing the right things. Forgiveness is something you give because you choose to free yourself from resentment. So do you forgive me? I look at my daughter, this 39-year-old woman who still seeks her mother's approval, and I feel a complex mixture of love, disappointment, sadness, and hope. I forgive you for being a scared child who didn't know how to be a mother. I forgive you for making desperate decisions when you felt overwhelmed. I forgive you for running away when the responsibility became too heavy. Shanice smiles hopefully, but I continue. But I cannot forgive you for coming back only when money is involved. I cannot forgive you for threatening me with jail to get what you want. And I cannot allow you to hurt those children again. The smile disappears from her face. So there's nothing I can do. Yes, there is something you can do, I reply firmly. You can go back to your life, work on your personal problems, and when you have truly matured and changed, when you can offer genuine love without expecting anything in return, then perhaps your children will decide for themselves if they want to meet you. And the inheritance belongs to them, Shanice, and I will make sure they receive it when they are ready to manage it responsibly. A court officer appears in the hallway. The recess is over. The judge is ready to continue. As we walk back to the tense, drama-filled courtroom, Shanice takes my arm gently. Mom, one last question. If I withdraw the lawsuit now, would you allow me to see the children occasionally for supervised visits? I stop and look directly into her eyes. That decision isn't up to me, Shanice. It's up to them. If they want to meet you, I will respect their decision, but I won't pressure them to do so. We enter the tense, drama-filled courtroom where the judge is waiting for us. And I know that the next few minutes will determine the future of my family. Judge Jamal Richardson takes his place on the bench, and the tense, drama-filled courtroom fills again with palpable tension. Shanice and her lawyer, Darnell Hayes, return to their table, but I can tell something has changed in her posture. She is more slumped, smaller, as if the hallway conversation has drained all her fighting energy. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge begins in a solemn voice, I have had time to review all the documentation presented, and I must say that this case presents very disturbing elements that go beyond a simple custody dispute. He looks directly at Shanice. Ms. Coleman, after examining the renunciation of parental rights written in your own hand, the text messages where you threaten your mother, and the documented history of abandonment for 13 years, I have some very serious questions to ask you. Shanice stands up, trembling, leaning on the table to maintain her balance. Do you confirm that you voluntarily wrote the renunciation of parental rights dated October 15, 2011? Your Honor, Attorney Darnell Hayes intervenes. My client was going through a severe mental health crisis at that time. She cannot be held responsible for decisions made under those circumstances. Attorney Sullivan, the judge replies severely, I have reviewed the medical reports you presented as evidence of your client's depression. The documents show that she was discharged from psychiatric treatment 2 months before writing that renunciation. According to medical records, her doctor certified that she was mentally stable and posed no danger to herself or others. Shanice stumbles and her lawyer helps her sit down. Furthermore, the judge continues, I have checked public records and found that Mrs. Shanice Vance legally married Mr. Tyrone Brooks on December 20, 2011, just 2 months after writing the renunciation of parental rights. Can you explain how someone mentally incapable of making decisions about their children could simultaneously make the legal decision to marry? The heavy silence, thick with tension in the tense, drama-filled courtroom is absolute. I can hear my own heart pounding as I await my daughter's answer. Your Honor, Shanice says with a broken voice. I just wanted to start over. I thought it would be better for everyone. Better. For everyone, or just for you? The judge's question cuts sharply, leaving Shanice speechless, tears and trembling voices streaming down her face. She's unable to answer. Ms. Coleman, the judge continues, his voice steady and unwavering, I've reviewed your son Paul's school records. The documents clearly indicate you were a consistently present and active participant in his education. You attended parent-teacher conferences, school functions, and maintained a stable home environment for him for 11 years. This undeniably demonstrates your capacity for motherhood. However, it also reveals a troubling pattern. You chose to exercise that capacity only with the child who presented the least inconvenience to you. Your selective parenting is glaring. Each word the judge speaks feels like a hammer blow, shattering Shanice's already fragile hopes. I watch as she crumbles in her chair, utterly defeated. But even more troubling, the judge says, holding up the printed text messages, are these explicit threats you made against your mother? Threatening false accusations of kidnapping is not only morally reprehensible, it constitutes extortion, a serious felony. Attorney Darnell Hayes rises, his voice laced with desperation. Your Honor, I request a recess to consult with my client about the possibility of withdrawing the lawsuit. The judge replies firmly, Attorney Sullivan, given the evidence presented, particularly the threats of extortion, I have a legal obligation to refer this case to the District Attorney's Office for evaluation of potential criminal charges against your client. Shanice cries out from her seat. No, please. I just wanted my children back. The judge's voice is severe. Miss Coleman, you did not want your children back. You wanted the inheritance money. The evidence overwhelmingly supports that conclusion. He turns to me. Mrs. Eleanor Vance, do you wish to press charges for extortion against your daughter? The question throws me completely off balance. For weeks, I'd anticipated this moment, but the agonizing reality of deciding whether to send my own daughter to jail hadn't truly sunk in. I look at Shanice, her eyes pleading, desperate for my mercy. Then I look at my grandchildren, their faces etched with tension, their futures hanging in the balance. Finally, I look inward, and the answer that rises surprises even me. Your Honor, I say, my voice firm despite the turmoil within, I do not wish to file criminal charges against my daughter. Shanice lets out a sigh of relief, but I continue. However, I do request a restraining order prohibiting her from contacting my grandchildren or me for a minimum of 5 years, unless through a legal representative and with the prior approval of this court. The judge nods. That seems a reasonable request. Anything else, Miss Coleman? Yes, Your Honor. I say, my voice steady. I request that it be established in the public record that Mrs. Shanice Vance voluntarily relinquished all her parental rights over Malik, Imani, and Nia Vance on October 15, 2011, and that any future attempt to claim custody or rights over these minors be considered frivolous and without legal merit. Granted. The judge says, making notes on his documents. Shanice stands swaying slightly. Mom, please don't do this. Don't take my children away from me forever. I turn to her, and for the first time in this entire hearing, my voice softens, yet remains unwavering. Shanice, I'm not taking anything from you. You relinquished them 13 years ago. You signed that renunciation. You chose to build another family and forget about them. I am simply protecting what you abandoned. But they're my children. She sobs, her voice choked with grief and desperation. No, I reply, my voice firm but compassionate. They are the children you had, but I am the one who raised them. I am the one who loves them unconditionally. I am the one who sacrificed my peace of mind, my health and my financial security to provide them with a stable and loving home. Malik rises from his seat in the gallery. Your Honor, may I say something? The judge nods. Please approach. My grandson walks to the stand, carrying himself with the quiet dignity of a mature adult, though the pain of a hurt child still flickers in his eyes. Your Honor, he begins, his voice clear and strong. I want it to be clearly stated for the record that my sisters and I do not consider Shanice Vance our mother. She is the woman who gave us life, but our mother is Zariah Coleman, the woman who raised us, educated us, loved us, and never abandoned us. He turns to Shanice. And I want you to know, Shanice, that if you ever truly change in the future, if you can ever offer genuine love without expecting anything in return, if you can ever prove you've truly matured, then perhaps we will consider getting to know you as a person. But you will never be our mother. That title has been rightfully earned by Grandma Zariah. Shanice sobs uncontrollably, but Malik is not finished. And about Uncle Malik's inheritance. He continues, his voice unwavering. I want you to know that when we turn 21 and can freely manage that money, a portion will go to Grandma Zariah, because she deserves to be rewarded for all the sacrifices she made for us. Imani and Nia rise, joining their brother before the stand. I also want to say something. Imani says, her voice clear and steady. Shanice, I don't hate you, but I don't know you either. To me, you're a stranger who shared some of her DNA with me. My real family is here with my Grandma Zariah and my siblings. Nia, the youngest, looks Shanice directly in the eyes. And I want you to know that if you had come back for love, if you had come back because you truly missed us, maybe we could have built something. But you came back for money. And that tells us everything we need to know about who you really are. The judge gently taps his gavel. By order of this court, the following is decreed. The permanent legal guardianship of Mrs. Ella Laner Vance over minors Imani Vance and Nia Vance is confirmed. A 5-year restraining order is established against Mrs. Shanice Vance. The custody demand filed by Mrs. Shanice Vance is declared null and void, and she is prohibited from filing similar lawsuits in the future without substantial new evidence of a change in circumstances. Shanice collapses, her lawyers supporting her as she weakens. Mom, she whispers, her voice barely audible. Will you ever be able to completely forgive me? I walk slowly towards her, feeling the weight of 13 years pressing down on my shoulders. Reaching her side, I gently place my hand on her tear-streaked cheek. Shanice, I say softly, I forgave you a long time ago. But forgiveness doesn't mean I can allow you to hurt these children again. They've suffered enough. What am I going to do now? She asks, her voice sounding like that of a lost little girl, filled with despair and uncertainty. You're going to go home. I say, my voice firm but gentle. You're going to take care of the child you have. You're going to work on yourself, on becoming a better person. And perhaps someday in the future, when you have truly changed, my grandchildren will decide for themselves if they want to meet you. And if Javier leaves you because you didn't get the money, I sigh deeply, then perhaps it's time you learn to stand on your own 2 feet, daughter. Perhaps it's time you stop basing your decisions on what men expect from you. The judge stands, signaling the end of the hearing. This court is adjourned. As we leave the tense, drama-filled courtroom, I feel a strange mixture of triumph and profound sadness. I won the legal battle, but I lost the hope that my daughter had returned for the right reasons. Yet, when my grandchildren surround me with their loving embraces in the courthouse hallway, I know I made the right choices. Sometimes love means protecting those you cherish, even if it means causing pain to someone you also love. 3 months after the trial, I sit in my small kitchen, watching Nia practice guitar for her school recital. The evening light streams through the window, illuminating her focused face, so strikingly like my own at her age. Malik is away at college, studying engineering on a full scholarship we secured through considerable effort. Imani works part-time at a bookstore while finishing high school. Life has found its rhythm again, but it's a different rhythm, calmer, more peaceful. The constant tension of wondering if someone would come to take the children is gone. The sleepless nights spent worrying about legal demands are a distant memory. The restraining order has given us the peace we desperately needed. The doorbell rings and I answer it. It's Miss Celine, my neighbor and the judge's sister, carrying a tray of freshly made tamales. "Zariah, look what I brought you," she says with her characteristic warm smile. "I know you've been working hard, and I thought these would do you good." "Thanks, Celine. Come in. Let's have some coffee." As we prepare the coffee, Celine looks at me with that familiar knowing expression. She has something to say, but she hesitates. "Just say it, Celine," I urge her gently. "I've known you for 40 years. It's about Shanice," she says finally, her voice low. "My brother Theodore told me she's been inquiring about appealing the decision." A knot forms in my stomach, but I take a deep breath. And what did they tell her? That she has no legal grounds to appeal, that the renunciation of parental rights she signed is valid, especially considering her subsequent actions. But Zariah, there's something else. Celine pauses, her gaze meeting mine. "Javier left her last week. He took their son, Paul, and told her he couldn't stay with a woman who'd lost $150,000 due to her own poor judgment." The news hits me like a physical blow. Despite everything Shanice has done, she's still my daughter, and it pains me to know she's suffering. "Where is she living now?" I ask, my voice barely a whisper. "In a small apartment near downtown. She's working cleaning offices at night. Theodore says she looks terrible, very thin, very sad." Nia stops playing the guitar and approaches us. "Are you talking about my biological mom?" "Yes, my love," I reply honestly. "It seems she's going through a very difficult time." Nia sits next to me. "Do you feel bad for her, Grandma?" The question, coming from her, surprises me with its unexpected maturity. "Yes, I do feel bad," I confess. "Despite everything that happened, she's still my daughter. I don't like knowing she's suffering. But that doesn't mean we did anything wrong by defending ourselves, right?" I smile and caress her hair. "No, my love. Sometimes in life we have to make difficult decisions. You can feel compassion for someone and at the same time protect yourself from them." Celine gently interrupts. "Zariah, there's something else you should know. Shanice has been asking about the children. She hasn't violated the restraining order, but she's been asking neighbors how they are, if they're doing well in school, if they need anything. Do you think she's planning something?" I ask, my concern growing. "I don't know, but Theodore wanted you to know just in case." That night, after Nia goes to bed, I lie awake thinking about Shanice. I imagine her alone in that small apartment, without her partner, without her son, without a stable job. I imagine her regret, her loneliness, her desperation. The next day, I make a decision that even surprises me. I go to the supermarket and buy a week's worth of groceries. Rice, beans, chicken, vegetables, bread, milk. I pack it all into bags and drive to the address Celine gave me. The building is old and dilapidated. I climb the stairs to the 3rd floor and knock on the door of apartment 3B. I hear slow footsteps, then Shanice's voice through the door. "Who is it?" "It's me, Shanice," I say, my voice soft. "Your mom." There's a long, heavy silence, thick with tension, then the sound of bolts being unlocked. The door opens and I see my daughter. Celine was right. She looks terrible. She's lost a significant amount of weight. She has deep, dark circles under her eyes, and her clothes are clean but worn. "Mom," she whispers as if she can't believe I'm really there. "What? What are you doing here?" "I brought you some things," I say, lifting the bags. "May I come in?" She steps aside and I enter the apartment. It's small but clean. An old sofa, a kitchen table with 2 chairs, a small television. On the table are stacked unpaid bills. Why? She asks as I place the bags on the kitchen counter. Because you're my daughter, I reply simply. Because despite everything that happened, I can't bear to see you go hungry. Shanice collapses onto the sofa and breaks into tears and trembling voices. Mom, I lost everything. Javier took Paul. He told me I was a loser, that I had the chance to get easy money and ruined it by being sentimental.
I sit beside her.
And what did you tell him? Nothing. I didn't say anything because I knew he was right. I am a loser. I lost my first children. I lost the inheritance. I lost Paul. I lost my house. Shanice, I say, my voice soft but firm. You didn't lose your first children. You abandoned them. There's a difference. She looks at me with eyes swollen from crying. You're always going to remind me of my mistakes. I'm not going to remind you constantly, I say. But I'm also not going to let you rewrite history. If you really want to change, you have to start by accepting the truth of what you did. And what truth is that? She asks, her voice strained. I stand and walk to the window overlooking the street. That you had 3 beautiful children, and you abandoned them because they weren't convenient for your new relationship. That you formed another family and completely forgot about them for 13 years. That you only came back when money was involved. I know all that. She explodes, her voice thick with emotion. I live with that guilt every day. I turn to face her. Guilt is useless, Shanice. Guilt is disguised self-pity. What's useful is genuine repentance and a real desire to change. And how do you know if my repentance is genuine? She challenges, her voice laced with bitterness. Because if it were genuine, I say, my voice unwavering, you wouldn't have come back asking for custody. You would have come back asking for forgiveness. You would have come back asking how you could help, not what you could get. Shanice remains silent for a long time. Finally, she asks, her voice barely a whisper. Is there any way I can ever meet my children again? Maybe, I reply. But it would have to be on their terms when they are ready, if they ever are. And in the meantime, work on yourself. Get psychological help. Find a stable job. Learn to live alone without depending on a man. Become the woman you would have wanted their mother to be. I walk towards the door. The food will last you a week. After that, you'll have to manage on your own. Will you visit me again? She asks, her voice small and filled with a glimmer of hope. I don't know, Shanice, I reply honestly. That depends on you, on the decisions you make from now on. I leave the apartment feeling a strange mix of emotions. I don't know if I did the right thing by coming here, but I know I couldn't let my daughter go hungry, no matter what she had done. When I get home, Malik is in the kitchen studying. He looks up when I enter. Grandma, where were you? I was looking for you. I went to see your biological mother. I tell him honestly. His expression changes instantly. Why? Because she's hungry and she's still my daughter. Malik closes his books and looks at me seriously. Grandma, I hope that doesn't mean you're going to let her back into our lives. No, my love. I reassure him. It means I'm capable of feeling compassion without compromising our safety. He nods slowly. Do you think she'll ever really change? I don't know, I reply honestly. But if she does, it will be because she decided to change, not because we pressured her or rescued her. That night, as I prepare for bed, I think about the lessons this experience has taught us. Sometimes the truest love is the one that sets boundaries. Sometimes protecting those you love means saying no to those you also love. And sometimes justice isn't revenge. Justice is simply allowing the natural consequences of someone's decisions to manifest, while you choose love over resentment. 1 year after the trial, I sit in my garden, watching the tomato plants I planted in the spring grow. Malik graduated with honors from college and secured a job at an engineering firm. Imani was accepted into college with a partial scholarship. Nia, now 17, leads her school's band. Uncle Malik's inheritance remains untouched in their trust accounts, waiting for each of them to turn 21. But most importantly, my grandchildren have flourished. free from the constant shadow of fear and abandonment. Mrs. Alma arrives with news. Zariah, I have to tell you something about Shanice. What happened now? I ask, bracing myself mentally. She enrolled in psychological therapy. Alma reveals. She's been attending religiously for 6 months. Theodore told me she's paying for the sessions herself with her cleaning job. The news genuinely surprises me. And there's more, Alma continues. She got a daytime job as a receptionist at a medical clinic. She no longer cleans offices at night. She looks better, more stable. Has she asked about the children? I inquire, my voice laced with cautious hope. No. In fact, they told her you had visited her. And she replied that her mother had already done enough for her. That now it was her turn to prove she could change without help. For the first time in years, I feel a strange sense of pride for my daughter. That afternoon, Nia comes home from school with a thoughtful expression. Grandma, can I ask you something? Always, my love. I reply, my voice gentle. Do you think I'll ever want to acknowledge my biological mother? The question doesn't surprise me. I knew this moment would eventually come. I don't know, Nia, I answer honestly. It's a decision only you can make when you're ready. Would you be upset if someday I decided to meet her? She asks, her voice soft. No, my love, I reply firmly. I would be proud of you for making your own decisions as a responsible adult. And if I decided never to meet her, I would be proud of that too. The decision is completely yours. That night, as I prepare dinner, I reflect on everything we've been through. For years, I harbored resentment towards Shanice. Resentment for leaving me with a responsibility that wasn't mine. Resentment for forgetting about her children. Resentment for coming back only when money was involved. But now, after all this time, I realized that resentment was a chain that bound both her and me. When I let go of it, I freed myself. Last week, Imani turned 19. During the celebration, she said something that filled my heart. Grandma, thank you for saving us, but more than that, thank you for teaching us that true love doesn't abandon. Malik, now 21, has full access to his inheritance. The first thing he did was set aside $10,000 for me. For everything you spent on us all these years, he told me. I accepted the money not because I needed it, but because it was important for him to give it to me. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Shanice had come back for the right reasons. If she had come asking for forgiveness instead of demanding custody. If she had shown genuine repentance instead of legal threats. Maybe we would have found a way to coexist. Maybe we would have been able to build something resembling an extended family. Maybe my grandchildren would have had the opportunity to meet their biological mother under healthy circumstances. But life isn't about maybes. It's about the decisions we make with the information we have at the time. We have it. I chose to protect 3 abandoned children. I chose to love them unconditionally when their own mother couldn't. I chose to sacrifice my peace of mind and my resources to give them stability. And when it came time to defend them, I chose to fight for them with all my strength. I regret none of those decisions. Today, as I watch Nia practice guitar, Imani study for her college exams, and Malik plan his professional future, I know I made the right decisions. They are responsible, empathetic, hardworking adults. They are good people who contribute positively to the world. They are living proof that unconditional love and firm boundaries can coexist. Sometimes people ask me if I hate Shanice for what she did. The answer is no. I don't hate her, but I don't excuse her either. I understand she was young when she had her children. I understand that motherhood can be overwhelming. I understand that we all make mistakes, but I also understand that some mistakes have permanent consequences. And choosing to abandon your children isn't a mistake. It's a decision that defines who you are as a person. Shanice chose her new life over her children. I chose those children over my comfort. We both live with the consequences of our decisions. The difference is that I can sleep peacefully at night knowing that I always put the children's well-being first. She will have to live forever knowing that she abandoned them when they needed her most. If there's one lesson in all this, it's that justice doesn't always come in the form of punishment. Sometimes justice is simply each person receiving exactly what their actions deserve. I deserve the unconditional love of my grandchildren because I gave them unconditional love for 13 years. Shanice deserves the absence of that love because she chose to be absent for 13 years. It's not revenge. It's a natural consequence. And perhaps if she has truly changed, if she is truly working on herself, someday my grandchildren will decide to give her a chance. But it will be their decision on their terms when they are ready. In the meantime, I will continue to be what I have always been. Their grandmother, their protector, their safe home, their unconditional love. Because that's how true love works. It doesn't abandon. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't set conditions. Simply is. Constant as the dawn. Strong as the roots of an old tree. Silent as a prayer that never ends. And that, at the end of the day, is enough. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.